أيها الحاضرون، الحمد لله رب العالمين، والعاقبة للمتقين، والصلاة والسلام على الذي أرسله الله بالنور بمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله الأطهار وأصحاب الأخيار وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد، وقد قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد بشانه مخبرا آمرا قولا كريما: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير بك نستعين يا أرحم الراحمين. We begin by mentioning the most majestic of all names, and other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most high AC. We send abundant blessings and salutations for the cream of creation, the rising star of Madinah al-Munawwara, and other than Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most high AC, that He make it easy for us and not to make it difficult. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most high AC, to grant us all knowledge and grant us all understanding. Ameen, Ameen. As we continue our topic of discussion, the Quran stories, whereby Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, from verse 256, whereby we continue our topic of discussion between Jalut or Goliath and Talut, King Saul. And indeed, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that وَلَمَّا جَاوَزَهُ هُوَ وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَهُ, and when they crossed the river, which is known as Nahr al-Sharia, the river between Palestine, West Bank, and Lebanon. So when the army of King Talut crossed that river between Lebanon and Palestine, and they entered onto the next side of the Hijaz, the Arabian Peninsula. So when they entered, they said that, oh, وَلَمَّا جَاوَزَهُ هُوَ وَالَّذِينَ مَعَهُ, and with King Talut was those who believed. And when they saw Jalut, when they saw that Goliath, indeed they said, قَالُوا لَا طَاقَةَ لَنَا الْيَوْمِ, indeed we do not have power to defeat him today. Because indeed Jalut or Goliath was amongst the most supreme kings at that time. He was fierce. His army was 100,000 and more, as mentioned previously. But indeed, when they saw them, and they were only 320. So when they saw that great army, they said, "La taqata al-yawm." We do not have the power today to defeat them. And then from amongst them, they said, very few, very minority have defeated people who was even much more in majority than them. بِإِذْنِ, by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَاللَّهُ مَعَ الصَّابِرِينَ, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with those who are steadfast. So here I want to point out one thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, He used the word sabr, patience. But patience is of different types. For indeed, at this time, they were about to fight Goliath and his army. Could you have patience when someone is about to embark and fight you? Are you about to stay by yourself and stay calm? No. So therefore, this is a different type of patience which we use. Well, for example, all of you are businessmen, all of you work for someone, or all of you own a business. If someone owes you a type of money, are you going to stay quiet and stay patient? No, you're going to act up. So this is a different type of patience you're going to use. So this is why many of the commentators and the English translators, they use the word steadfast for the word sabr here. For indeed, they were resident. They were people who were waiting for that moment. So this is not a different type of patience to stay calm. For example, the type of patience when a person is afflicted with something. This is the moment when they stay calm. and not to discuss that which they have been afflicted with, the trial that they are going through. Like the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when someone is afflicted with their harm, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whoever speaks about it, but indeed he doesn't know about patience. That's not patience. Because it's to stay calm at that moment. So we see from this verse that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are different types of patience as well. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Wallahu ma'as-sabirin. Yeah, with those who are steadfast, those who are resilient. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues and he says, What? فَلَمَّا جَاوَزَ فَإِنِّيدَ فَلَمَّا بَرَزُوا جَالُوتَ بِجَالُوتَ. For indeed, when they marched against Jalut and his army, for indeed, they saw King Jalut. For indeed, King Goliath, he was the king of the Amalekan tribe. And the Amalekan tribe was from amongst the northern African people. So this is how as well there was also said that though Jalut or King Goliath, from his offspring, the descendants of the Berbers were came from King Goliath. So indeed when they marched upon him, فَلَمَّا بَرَزُوا بِجَالُوتَ وَجُنُودِهِ, that when they marched forward with him and they saw him when they crossed the river, that indeed they saw him in his peak, in his true form, King Goliath. And it was said, some of the commentators have said that his shadow was shown for 1 mile radius. This is how huge he was. This is how big he was. For indeed his shadow was shown for 1 mile. Can you imagine that? And his army, all of them fully equipped and fully armored, and 100,000 of them. And how much of them? 320. So when they saw this, but indeed they became weary. And then they made dua. Allah, indeed, Rabbana afriq alayna. Oh Allah, pour unto us, afriq alayna, sabran. Steadfastness, not the type of patience to stay calm. Steadfastness, give us resilience. For indeed, make our foot firm against the enemies. وَانْصُرْ عَلَيْنَا قَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ, and make us victorious against the people who disbelieve. So look at the people now. 320. These people of minority, these people of few, going up against King Goliath, Jalut and his army, 100,000 of them, fully equipped, fully armored. And for indeed, it was mentioned that King Jalut, he used to face armies by himself. So this was known. This was mentioned about him. He used to face armies by himself. So now not only that, he was also had with him 100,000. So when they saw this, what they did? They made dua. Rabbana afriq alayna. Oh Allah, pour unto us, grant us, give us steadfastness. Make us firm. Make our feet firm. And make us become victorious. Give us victory. Give us guidance against those who disbelieve. When you and I, we see our enemies today, when our enemies attack us, when our enemies attack our Muslim brothers and sisters in Islam, whether it be in Palestine, whether it be in Somalia, whether it be in Congo, whether it be in Afghanistan, oh, do we react? Some of us, we don't even make dua. We run away from making dua. We run away from the adab and the etiquette of making dua. But what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us, with the people of King Saul, the people of King Talut, for indeed him and his people, they raised their hands and they made dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For indeed this was also the way of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would go into his battle, for indeed he would also supplicate, and whilst fighting he would supplicate and say, Oh Allah, Allahumma bika, Oh Allah, through you, wa asulu wa ajulu, I stand firm and I attack them. This was the dua of the Prophet ﷺ when he was in the battlefield whilst fighting with his enemy. In another hadith, and it's also recorded by Shaykh Albani, he mentioned the Silsila Sahih, that indeed the Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min shururihim wa aj'aluka fi nuhurihim. Oh Allah, indeed I seek refuge from the evils of them, and indeed I put you at their throats. This was the dua of the Prophet ﷺ whilst fighting in the battlefield against his enemies. But we think some of us, You hear the statements, oh, we want to go and fight in Palestine. But when it's time for dua, right in your masjid, you run away. For making dua for the people of Palestine, you run away. After every salah, you see people run away. But look at the dua once in the battlefield. You think you will have time while fighting in the battlefield? Long time with swords. Now it's machine guns, AK-47s, whereby a person from a mile radius, where drones from out the sky that you cannot see, sending down their bombs. But where are you making dua? Huh? Ask yourself. This was the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala narrated to us the story of the people of King Saul, King Dhu'l, and the people and the enemies of Jalut, Goliath. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues and he says that when they marched against Jalut and his enemy, Goliath, for indeed they made this dua, رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَنَا وَانصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ. Oh Allah, pour upon us steadfastness, resilience. Make our foot firm. Make our feet firm. Mean what? When you are against your enemies. When you are against those people who you want to become victorious, who you want to overcome. Make this dua. This is also a dua from Quran, where you should memorize and learn during, especially this time, where the people and our Muslim brothers and sisters are suffering. And grant us victory against those who disbelieve. And then Allah subhanahu continues in the same surah, Surah Al-Baqarah. And then he says what? فَإِنْدِيدِ قَتَلَ دَاوُودُ جَالُوتَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given glad tidings to Prophet David to kill Jalut, Goliath. So how did this come about? How did David came about? Prophet Dhu'l alayhi salam, King Saul, King Talut, for indeed he and his people marched across the river across the river between Palestine and Lebanon, marched against Jalut and his army. For indeed, when David heard this, he was a shepherd. He was a shepherd, a small youth man, as you would say, a young boy. Some of the commentators have mentioned his description being short and stout and sickly looking. Can you imagine that? Yeah? But indeed, the description of Prophet Dhu'l and Prophet David, that he was short and stout and sickly looking and sallow. And he was a shepherd. And he had 7 brothers, and he was the youngest of all of them. He had 7 brothers, and he was the youngest of all of them. And from those 7 brothers, they went marching with King Talut against Goliath and his enemies, Goliath and his armies. And when he heard this, he said to himself, I cannot stay here. I cannot stay grazing this animal. I want to go and see this battle. So he went and marched with them. In the battle, no one knew who he was. No one knew who was David. No one knew who was Prophet Dhu'l alayhi salam at that time. Allah subhanahu mentioned him. وَقَتَلَ دَاوُودُ جَالُوتَ. But it's David who killed Goliath. No one knew who he was. So indeed, Jalut, Goliath came across King Talut face to face. And he mentioned to them, and all of the 320 army people, and his 100,000, Goliath said, for indeed, I want to combat one-on-one. Which one from amongst you, meaning the 320 soldiers who were with King Talut, who want to fight me? David, with his scrawny, thin self-stone, came about, said that I will fight you. So then Talut looked at him, who are you? Because it's something shocking. You don't know who is this person. So King Talut said, have you ever fought before? He said, yes. One day a wolf came to eat one of my sheep. I caught it and I slit its neck. So King Talut smiled and said, wolves are weak. Have you ever fought anything else in your life? He said, yes. For indeed I fought against a lion. It came running after me, and indeed I caught it, and I take off his neck, and I spread the jaws into 2. He said, do you think that he is stronger than a lion? He said, no, I don't think he's stronger than a lion. So then the second and third time, Goliath came out asking, who is coming to fight me? And every moment David, Prophet Dhu'l said, I will come. So Then Talut said to Prophet David at that time, he said to him, look, if you're going to fight, I have a special armor for that individual. Go and take it. And take my horse that I am riding. And then King Talut said, whosoever defeats Jalut, whosoever defeats King Goliath, for indeed I will give him my daughter and I will give him my entire kingdom. Imagine that. I see Gabriel smiling. Can you imagine? Someone giving you your daughter to come in for Salah 5 times a day? Hey. Imagine that. So indeed, when David alayhi salam, Allah be pleased with him, notice, so indeed it's encouraged him even more. It's encouraged him even more. Remember, he was a person, a shepherd, nothing. And on his way to the battlefield, the stone called out. He says, Ya Dawood, oh David. فَنَادَهُ, the stone called out to David. And he said, Khudni, take me. The stone, this pebble, called out to Prophet David and said, take me. فَهِيَ تَقْتُلُ جَالُوتَ, for indeed through me you will kill Jalut, you will kill Goliath. And then another pebble, another stone called out to him, a third pebble, another pebble called out to him. And he took it up, those 3 stones, these 3 pebbles, and placed it in his sack, in his little pouch. You know, nowadays we have those brand names, one Louis Vuitton, etc. They hang across the waist. So imagine that time he had this little pouch. He placed these 3 stones into it, and then he walked to the battlefield. And then when Goliath saw him, because remember he was short, he was stout, he's puny in front of Goliath. Goliath is shadow showing a mile. He said, you are the one who are coming to fight me? David said, indeed, yes, I am the one. He said, what puny things is this? He said, even you can't even fight a dog. Goliath, he said to David, he said, indeed you're so scrawny, your arms are so scrawny. According to some of the historians mentioned that Goliath mentioned that your arms are so scrawny that you can't even fight the dog. And then David, Prophet Dawood said, indeed this may be true, but you are lesser than that. Yeah? He said, this may be true, but you are lesser than that. So when Goliath heard this now, he about to wrap him, he about to take him with his hand because he was something small. Can you imagine a small little child running around, you're big and bulging, you're all muscles, and someone small come to fight with you, you just say, hey, thank you God, and fling him. But as soon as he done that, he missed. And David alayhi salam, Prophet Dawood took one of his pebbles out, and he was known to be one of the best slingshotters. You know, nowadays we don't have slingshot. Those who were back in the day know about slingshot. And Prophet David, he was very professional in this. So he took one out, put it into his sling, and slung it. And when he slung the shot, for indeed a strike Goliath in front of his head. And some of the commentators mentioned it went through his eye, smashing through his eye, coming out of the back of his head, and destroyed some of his 100,000 of arms. This was the pebble who was called to him. And some of the commentators have mentioned when he took out this pebble and before he slung and put it into the sling, he said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, and see, for indeed, O Allah, if I do not kill him, for indeed I will be nothing. So he slung it, and when it was slung, for indeed it struck Goliath in his head, coming out to the next head, and killing others who was other of his arms who were behind him. He fell down to the ground. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continually was وَهَزَمُوهُمْ, and destroyed them. وَقَتَلَ دَاوُودَ جَالُوتَ, and David is the one who killed Goliath. And for indeed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues in the verse and he says, وَآتَاهُ الْحِكْمَةَ, for indeed we will give him wisdom. وَآتَاهُ الْمُلْكَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ, we'll give him a dominion, we'll give him a kingdom, we'll give him wisdom. وَعَلَّمَهُ مِمَّا يَشَاءُ, and we will teach him from whatever we will. So the commentators have mentioned that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that we will give him a kingdom, meaning the kingdom of Talut, the kingdom of King Saul, which he was granted for destroying Jalut, destroying Goliath. and he got married to King Saul's daughter. So he gained the kingdom of King Saul. And for indeed when they say, well, آتَهُ الْمُلْكَ الْحِكْمَةَ, grant him wisdom, for indeed he got the prophethood of Shamil. Because remember, Shamil was the one who announced, as mentioned in the last khutbah, Shamil was the one who announced that King Saul will become the king of the Israelites. So for indeed he granted these two things. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَآتَهُ الْمُلْكَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَعَلَّمَهُ مِمَّا يَشَاءُ. He will teach him things from whatever he wills. And Abdullah ibn Abbas, radiallahu ta'ala, Allah be pleased with him, have mentioned and said that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted the kingdom of King Dhu'l, King Saul, and he granted him the wisdom of Shamil prophethood, and when the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught him was that of the realms. And he granted him one of the chain lights. And it is mentioned that those chains that he had, King David, Prophet David alayhi salam, Prophet Dhu'l alayhi salam, that chain that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon him. For indeed he will hear the realms, whatever is happening in the sky, when it will be raining, he will hear it. And he will know what is going on in the realms. And indeed one of the miracles of this chain that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon Prophet David, Prophet Dhu'l alayhi salam, was that all of his followers, those who will enter the religion of Prophet Dhu'l, which is Tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but indeed whoever was sick, when they touched that chain, they would become cured. And this was one of the means for them to enter the religion of Prophet Dhu'l, Prophet David. My dear esteemed brothers and sisters in Islam, for indeed, this story about Goliath and David, which is also a biblical story, is also mentioned in the Bible. It is also mentioned in the Old Testament. And this is the story also Quran. But how you and I can apply this story in our modern era today. We see in our news feeds, we see what is happening in Palestine. For indeed, don't you think those people, those children, who are marching and being steadfast by the universities in the USA and throughout the globe in recognition of Palestine being a state, in recognition of the massacre from Israel. But indeed, don't you think these people are like the king Saul and his people and his army? Those of us who march around Queen's Park Savannah in front of the American embassy, don't you think you and I are like those people from amongst King Saul and his Shia and the army? Even though we were little? This is how we apply this today, my dear esteemed brothers and sisters in Islam. This is how we apply this type of story of Quran in our lives today. Even if we cannot accomplish, even if we do not have the power to go in the field of battle, in the field of war, if we do not even have the power to change what the Israelite government and the Zionists are doing, we learn to make dua. رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَنَا وَانصُرْنَا عَلَى الْقَوْمِ الْكَافِرِينَ. And make us firm and become victorious over the disbelieving people. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who become victorious over the disbelievers. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inculcate in our hearts true belief, true iman, and what it entails to become believers and to protect the believers. Ameen.